Hi there, short story writers. Roger Valentin here with another short story prompt from the news. And today's news item is that artificial intelligence has gotten to the point where it's learning when to defer to a human and when not to, particularly in the medical field. And the news item in question cited the use of antibiotics when a human doctor might want to use particularly a broadband antibiotic, and it might be better to use a specific one, and the artificial intelligence would suggest a specific one, and in fact possibly override the human doctor's recommendation in that specific circumstance. And bearing in mind that artificial intelligence has gotten to the point where one machine in the space of a morning taught itself to play, I believe it was either chess or Baduk, which is also known as Go, which is a fiendishly difficult game, complicated. But I think it was chess. It beat Deep Blue. Deep Blue was the first computer to beat the world champion. So this computer learned by playing Deep Blue, and in the space of a morning it was able to beat it in a morning. I mean, that's pretty fast. So artificial intelligence, whether we like it or not, it's here, it's going to happen. The so-called singularity was supposedly 2045. I think it's going to happen a little earlier than that, and that will be the point where an artificial intelligence becomes so complicated that it is pretty much conscious. It is aware of being aware. So, sentient, that's the word. Aware of being aware. So, this actually provides for a wonderful tapestry of ideas for short story ideas. I know I always start with literary fiction. The problem with literary fiction for me has always been the yellow wallpaper. Oh my goodness, what a completely boring story that is. It's not even a story, it's just some writing about the paper in a room. And you're left to deduce what the mental state or the emotional state of the person, the patient, is. And I think that does writing a disservice, really, because when you are just turning out what is essentially a journal entry and saying, well, actually, you're invoking the artist. If you don't understand it, then, only wise people can see the emperor's clothes. No, sorry. You enter into a contract with your reader that you're going to entertain them. They invest time with you. They invest money with you. And if you disappoint them, they will go forever. So it's up to you to provide something which they are expecting. And if you went to a restaurant and you said, well, I rather fancy a meal, please, a 3-course meal, and here's my exorbitant amount of money for what you're going to get. And then the chef said, well, actually, I'm in rather a kind of a experimental phase here, so I'm going to throw bananas at you and you've got to catch them, and that's the meal, because I say it's a meal. No, it doesn't work like that. You'll be outraged, and you have entered into a contract with the chef. They have to provide you with something which doesn't have to necessarily be safe. It doesn't have to be steak and chips or whatever it is you would go to a restaurant for. It could be a bit of fusion food, but as long as it's delicious and it is satisfying and you are happy with the result, then the contract has been fulfilled. So literary fiction, it's a genre, whether we like it or not. And in fact, in the last 20 years, there have been a lot of literary fiction which is both entertaining and literature. And I'm going to cite Stephen King, Dolores Claiborne. If you haven't read it, you should. He also wrote The Shawshank Redemption, and he also wrote Misery, and he also wrote Hearts in Atlantis. So that's at least 4. And he kind of does fusion as well. Carrie, his first major book, that's pretty much in there. And on the other hand, before anybody starts saying, oh my goodness, don't forget, when you are doing writing courses, the one story that's thrown at you time and time and time again as an example of a story which is also literature is A Christmas Carol, involving no less than 4 spirits. So, there is room for writing literary work which crosses the boundaries of what would be considered genre fiction. So, let's not be precious about it, okay? Literary fiction is mainly concerned with the inner thoughts of a person. And there's no reason why, especially in 2020, where we're pretty much living in a science fiction world, that cannot be a bit of a genre bender. So, artificial intelligence. If you wish to write literary fiction, you could be a patient on the receiving end of a diagnosis from some artificial intelligence, which turns out to be more accurate or less accurate than that of the human doctor. And that could then lead to the jury situation for malpractice, or the doctor trying to defend himself against defamation. Okay. Comedy, I'm pretty sure that artificial intelligence could go wrong with hilarious results. A romance has been done in the form of Her, but why not the first artificial intelligence run dating agency where unlikely people are actually brought together, and despite their initial misgivings, they find that they are matched in more ways than they could possibly have found out if they had gone on their own instincts. Sci-fi, it's artificial intelligence. Fantasy, it's artificial intelligence. Surreal, it's artificial intelligence. This is your field, totally. Make it human. Because all stories are about human beings overcoming a problem, or having a problem and overcoming it, or fighting it at the very least. Crime and mystery. Well, how about the first artificial intelligence criminal, a cyber criminal? And getting caught, and deliberately. Okay, William Gibson, the very first cyberpunk novel, and I can't remember what it was called. However, that set the standard. Thrillers, a cyber criminal which is one step ahead of the protagonist, and that could be quite scary actually. Historical, okay, sorry, unless you do something like steampunk. Political, yeah. How about some AI situation where the politicians are being rounded up and ousted and put in a kind of a soft prison, which is to their liking but isolated from the rest of us. A bit like the beat arc in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Surreal horror, biographical. Eventually, AIs are going to be personalities, aren't they? We're going to be referring to Deep Blue, the chess playing AI, and then the AI which I think it was called Alpha or something like that, which beat it. They are going to need biographificating. So you could write a pseudo biographical account of the life of an AI, which would assume that it would die at some point. Interesting. Okay, so if you disagree with what literary fiction is all about, let me know in the comments. You don't have to go into a big diatribe. You can just say, yes, I agree. No, I disagree. No, I don't disagree, or whatever. Or if you want to go into a diatribe, go right ahead. I'm going to draw a caveat on this, though, because I know that AI is going to touch some religious buttons. If you're going to be a writer of fiction, you should be neutral, and no religion in the comments, because it's highly contentious. I'm going to invoke the 3 rules of dinner parties. No politics, even if I've said political. No sex, no religion. Okay? Have fun with today, and see you next time.